Hey everybody, so let's get to the short story that you're going to be doing a text analysis on, because remember, we're not doing it on St. Lucy's. We've used St. Lucy's to provide plenty of examples of what you should do, but now let's get to a brand new story. And you maybe have already noticed that in Zoology I have a copy of the story there, and it's called Swamp Monsters Make Bad Housewives. Now, normally I'd say, hey, if you just want to read it on your own, then go do it. But you should know that after I'm done reading this, I'm going to be giving you some tips on some things you should focus on so you can do a really nice job on your text analysis. So if you don't want to listen to me read the story, you should at least fast forward the video to where I start talking about the tips. But don't forget, man, writing this text analysis without reading the story at all, it's impossible. So, all right, let's get to reading this. Swamp Monsters Make Bad Housewives by Tyler Rinn. I woke up with one of her scales stuck to my cheek the other day. I noticed it after I'd put one contact in. Squinting closed my contactless eye, I peeled it off and laid it on our faux marble sink. I used to think they looked like slices of opal, as if a gem had been shaved by a pastrami slicer to arrange a beautiful jigsaw puzzle on her skin. I used to think they were beautiful, and now they look like rotten toenails. Rotten toenails that I pick off the carpet, off the sofa, off the bed. We used to lie in that bed tucked like sardines in love. The sheets would get a wetness to them, morning dew that misted from her body. This gives a whole new meaning to waterbed, I'd whisper. She'd giggle, and I'd kiss her on the small dorsal fin that jutted out from the nape of her neck. We'd just lie there. These days, though, her dew is more of a drizzle. I have to change the sheets every morning or our comforter starts sprouting little copper-topped toadstools that make me sneeze. This gives a whole new meaning to bedwetter, I mumble to myself as I cram another soggy sheet into the washer. She lounges in the bath. That's another thing. I know she needs water to stay alive. I know that. But must she wet her gills at the dinner table? There was a time I thought it was cute when I'd be taking a shower and she'd sneak into the bathroom and pull back the rubber ducky print curtain and step in. Just need a drink, she'd coo. I'd let her stand between me and the shower head and put my hands on her hips while the water ran down her face and neck and gills. Then she'd turn around, kiss me on the chin, say thanks, and go back to whatever she was doing before her spiracles dried up, and I'd shampoo my hair. Now, she's just come back from getting groceries and is unloading them onto the table when she says, I was thinking we could go to the lake tonight. I shifted my recliner, squeaking. A guy doesn't realize how fidgety he is until he covers all his furniture with plastic. I run my bare toes over the living room tile. Tile everywhere. We can't put down rugs, of course, just bath mats. Okay, I say, and get my shoes and key and coat. Up at the lake bar and grill, the bartender says, Excuse me, but your wife is making a mess. My beer pauses halfway on its journey to my mouth, and I raise my eyebrows at him. He's wearing a feathered gray and black sweater that makes him look like a goose. I drop my eyes to the pool of water beneath my wife's bar stool, and as I watch it, another large drop slides over her big toe and sandal into her growing pond on the hardwood floor. You can clean it up or you can get out, says the goose. It's just water, I say, setting down my beer. Yeah, and that's all she's drinking too. Not my loss if you hit the road. Listen, pal, I start to say, but stop when I feel a clammy hand on my forearm. It's okay, honey, says my wife. Let's just go. I take my wife by the arm and give the goose a parting glare, feeling his beady eyes on our backs as we walk out into the night. I'm sorry, I say, winding my arm around her waist and tucking her into my side. We walk across the parking lot like that. She slides her cheek up against mine and leaves it there. Don't be, she says. It's not your fault. Besides, our movie's on tonight. I open the passenger door for her. The creature from the Black Lagoon. I've never understood why you're not offended. I crawl onto the driver's seat, and the car sinks a little with my weight. I know, she says. I think it's funny. I buckle up and stick the keys into the ignition. Oh, says my wife, giggling. She reaches out and picks something off my cheek. Sorry, she says, holding up one of her scales. And with the fluorescent parking lot lights shining through the windshield, it almost looks like a little slice of opal. All right, so that's Swamp Monsters Make Bad Housewives. Just a couple observations. Are you familiar with Creature from the Black Lagoon? It's one of the classic Universal monster movies. By today's standards, it's not as impressive, but way back in 1953, boy, the costume was amazing. The special effects were great, and there was a lot of underwater footage, which was kind of like new and pretty schwanky for scary movies that day. But that's apparently their favorite movie, as noted towards the end of the story. And I imagine that's kind of sort of what she looks like, but it's a guess. It's a guess. There's no pictures to this story. Some other tips that I think you might find useful while putting together your central idea and literary term paragraphs. For me, I see this as love story. All right. I mean, they've been married. You know, I think with any relationship, there's probably been some ups and downs. And if you see this as a love story too, please keep in mind when you get to putting together your central idea, just saying that the central idea is love is not good enough. What about love? All right, sure, this could be a statement about what it is to be human and to love someone if you want, but what about it? What about it? Or maybe you really like the fact that not everyone seems to see what this guy sees in a swamp monster. But by the end of the story, he seems pretty confident in how he feels about her. Granted, in the beginning, maybe he has some doubts, some frustrations. So if you see this as a short story about confidence in one's choices or something along those lines, that's fine too. But remember that you can't just say the central idea is confidence. That's not enough. And if you see this story in a way that's different from the two ways that I tossed out there, great. Remember, there's no one secret central idea. It's what you take from the story. And in terms of your literary term paragraph, remember that you're limited to conflict, characterization, and symbols. If you're going to go with conflict, sure, the bartender at the Lake Bar and Grill, there's a bit of a conflict there. But perhaps his frustration is pointing towards some sort of internal conflict that you can utilize. If you're going to focus on characterization, definitely focus on the characterization of the narrator. Don't bother looking for a name. We don't get one. And I'm suggesting focusing on the narrator because we don't get a whole lot of details on any of the other two characters in this short story. You might find yourself putting together a similar sentence to the characterization paragraph we did some time ago when you say the narrator is characterized as, and then you fill in that blank, and then you give us some evidence. But don't forget at the end, make sure you relate it back to whatever you come up with for your central idea. Finally, symbols. There's plenty of things that you can talk about in this short story. One thing that I really think might be useful, I want to point out to you that her scales make two important appearances in this. Okay? If you look at the beginning, how he feels about her scales, what does he compare them to? Rotten toenails. And then at the end of the story, he sees them as slices of opal. Those are two very different reactions to the same thing. So symbols might help you out there too. Of course, you'll have to make sure you tell me what the symbols represent. And don't forget to tie it back to that central idea. A couple other things to keep in mind. If right now you feel like I don't know what to write about, that's fine. That's okay. It's not about, boom, knowing. Sometimes it's about figuring it out. And we have enough time today just to kick around some ideas. And if you want to run some ideas past me, hey, you know where I work. And don't forget, you could look back at the color-coded paragraphs and all the work we've done previously this week as a review to help you out with both of these paragraphs. Now, when you're ready to get writing, there is already a place in Schoology where you can submit this stuff. Okay, it's set up as a test or a quiz with 2 questions. The first, it's not really questions though. The first question is, it's where you're going to copy and paste your first paragraph from a Google Doc, and then you'll copy and paste it into the field in Schoology. And then for the second question, all I need you to do is copy and paste the second paragraph and pop it into the typing field in Schoology. I've gone ahead and attached a doc that has like a real brief outline, pretty much the things that we highlighted over the past couple days. So I put those things on the doc. If those help you, great. Use that doc to write your 2 paragraphs. If you run into problems submitting, you know the guy to talk to. Let me know what's happening so I can help you out. Now, everything is already in Schoology, ready to go. So you're more than welcome to start this today, this weekend. Of course, I'm going to give you Monday and Tuesday next week. And there's no new video or anything else Monday and Tuesday. I'm just going to be available for questions. Now, things I won't do. I won't throw out central ideas for you. You have to figure out how to come up with those yourself. I could try to point you in the right direction if you're really struggling, but I can't just hand one over to you. Same thing with the second paragraph. I can't tell you exactly what lit term you should focus on. Really, there's a lot of options. There's a bazillion ways to make this stuff work. All right, so if you don't know how, spend some time, figure it out. Look back at the stuff we did all this week. Now, this thing's worth 65 points. That's a lot. Make sure you include every piece of every paragraph. That includes hooks, concluding sentences, all that stuff. Consult the rubrics. Consult the rubrics or use the doc that I attach to make sure you hit all those important pieces. I have all the confidence in the world that you're going to do great on this. And if you run the trouble, let me know. Let me know. All right, I'm going to shut up so you guys can start thinking and start writing too. We'll see you soon.